Boba Fett forges a new path for himself. Obi-Wan Kenobi grapples with his past. The seeds of rebellion are planted and more as the Sky Guys are back to review the year in Star Wars.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are celebrating the year that was in Star Wars. A lot of fun content this year. 3 live action shows, an animated series, Lego special. A lot of fun stuff we covered here on the podcast. I'm going to catch you all up here. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Joining me, as always, man who's voice here in the narration every single week here, Pete Consadori. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. What a roller coaster of a year when it came to Star Wars shows, right? We're going to talk about it further, obviously, but great to be here talking Star Wars with you guys as always. I'm ready to get into it.
Also with us here today, the leader of our community of Tusken Raiders, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Also doing well. It's been a good year. We had a lot of content for you and excited to talk about it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not waste any more time on this here. Pete, people want to follow us here on the Sky Guys. They can check out all our favorite podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. This podcast is not coming out in the Just and the Suffering feed. It's going to be only on this podcast feed. So make sure you subscribe to the Sky Guys if you want to get these things, as well as our Bad Batch covers coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you're subscribed. Get that content really, really quick, and make sure that you're up to date with all the news and our thoughts before you go and watch that season.
Absolutely here. And Nick, people want to follow us on the Instagram. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram. You could follow us there.
All right. Let's check out the YouTube page, Mike Phillips on YouTube. Video version of all the fun graphics. Got some MVP LED boards in here. Plus, I got all the props. I got the Book of Boba Fett holiday sweater here. We got some Mando from that show. I also have Pete newly built Obi-Wan Kenobi Lego brickhead here. I don't have any Andor props, but I'll give the Ahsoka pop here for Tales of the Jedi. I got something for everything pretty much.
You got to remind me about brickheads when we talk about Book of Boba Fett, because something happened that I find hysterical.
Yeah. And
we'll get to that when we get to the show, but remind me.
All right. That's for sure.
Well, Mike, before we get started, I have some statistics here that I just wanted to share because it's the end of the year, and thank the audience that throughout the year there were we were listened to in 7 different countries. I think that's really cool considering we didn't exist a year ago as a podcast. We were just kind of on your other feed. This is for the other feed. This is for the Sky Guys feed. I know it's Just on the Suffering. Some of these episodes will come out on the Just on the Suffering feed as well, but yeah, 7 different countries, and we produced more content than 93% of all TV and film podcasts. So we created a lot of stuff for you guys to listen to. So if you want to go back and listen to that. And then lastly, we were in the top 25% of all podcasts shared on the internet in 2022, which is fantastic.
So thank you guys for sharing. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, here. Let's get to the news here. I know Nick's been a little busy collecting the stats for us on the Spotify wrap, and so I took care of some news this week here. So a couple things real quick want to pop out here. Up number one here, the Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer has been out here for a little bit. We didn't get a chance to cover in the last podcast, talk about Tales of the Jedi here, but Pete, did you get a chance to check out this trailer?
I did. It looks very, very cool. I believe we talked about this a little bit. I couldn't get into the first game, and I don't know if it's because of the mechanics or maybe just there was so much other things going on, or maybe it was too difficult for me. But it looks really cool. It looks like there's things that Cal Kestis could do differently than he did in the previous games. That were showing a lot of features that I feel like were not in the previous game, but I also didn't get too far in the first one, so I don't know if I just missed out on that part. But it looks really cool. It looks great. I'm curious to see how that story goes, and even if I don't play it, I'll probably watch like a story recap and kind of cheat a little bit and see how that storyline goes for Cal. But yeah, it looks sick if you're into that kind of game. It does look really cool.
Yeah, Nick, I think there's a lot of fun stuff in there because, obviously it comes out March 17th, so you're right in the middle of Star Wars March there with all the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian going on here. But, we got a lot of cool stuff here. You got a shot in the trailer where Cal Kestis releases grabs one of the like ARC troopers, like had him mow down a bunch of stormtroopers with his own gun, then kills him. Like, but I also catch battle droids in there.
I thought I saw that too. So now that you said that, looks like we're onto something.
Yeah. I saw battle droids. I saw the Grievous like bodyguard droids. I saw those too.
I think I saw the same. So awesome.
Yeah, and Pete also thought the other thing off the trail was that it looks like Seer Junda, who is like his mentor in the first game, like apparently she's building a new Jedi archive somewhere. So that's also pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I really quick question, not to stay on the topic of news, but like Grievous. I mean, even though the Grievous guards are there, Grievous can't be there, right? Grievous has been long gone by this time. I mean, this is way after that, right?
Yeah, it's way. I mean, Obi-Wan really shoots his heart.
Right. So I mean, the Grievous guards has me intrigued, right? I wonder what they're guarding, right? What exactly is their purpose per se? But anyway, that's just food for thought.
All right, that's thing number one here. Thing number two, I'll mention real quick here, Nick. We mentioned the awards for Andor. Andor has not been a Cat Diego was nominated for a Golden Globe for best lead actor in a drama. I know the Golden Globes are kind of canceled, but also good to have some kind of press for Diego Luna there.
Yeah, awesome. I know he's very grateful for it, and he should be, and hope he wins.
Yeah, hope he wins. Hope he wins something. And I don't think he win all. Maybe you can get one of these awards.
Would be nice.
All right, last piece of news here. This sort of found this tweet. I think recently recording on December 14th. This is from Patty Jenkins, who is the director of Wonder Woman 3. She was commenting on the rumors that the movie's been scrapped by HBO Max and all Warner Brothers and all the craziness going on there. But she has a piece of it's news interesting to us. I'm going to share this screen on the YouTube Twitter version here. So this is from here. This is this long statement. Here's the part that developed to us. I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process when it became clear it couldn't happen soon enough. I did not want to delay WWE3, in other words, Wonder Woman 3, any further. When I did, Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to RS after WWE3, which I was honored to do, so I agreed. They made a new deal with me. In fact, I am still on it, and that product has been in active development ever since. I don't know if it will happen or not. We never do the development process complete, but I look forward to its potential ahead here. So, Nick, that movie is still happening as of right now.
I don't know about that. I think even she said I don't. She said I don't know if it's going to happen. I think that she just isn't fired.
Yeah,
and they're leaving the potential for it to be open, but I still doubt it'll happen.
Yeah, Pete, I don't think we're ever seeing this movie.
Nick has said this time and time again on this podcast, and I have to agree with him. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, this is just kind of the MO of Star Wars. I just don't. I'm not going to hold my breath, right? So, if she's saying it's probably not happening or it may not, I can't see it happening.
Because it feels to me, Nick, sort of like they're saying, okay, Patty Jenkins, write the script. If you like the script, we'll go forward with it. But if you don't, all right, see ya.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. Let's say they like the script, and they go through with it, and everything goes well, and it comes out. I know the original window is a year from now. I don't know if that's possible. I don't think so. So let's just say it is possible, and it comes out a year from now. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see it, and I'll be there opening night. But is anybody else gonna go?
It would have to be a hell of a great trail to get people in there.
Yeah. So I'm not excited for it. I really hope it doesn't happen because I feel like another dud or a movie that no one knows about or cares about, and I think that's when you start losing people. It's like you started making some things people were finding questionable, with the quality, and then you start releasing things where it's like, what even is this? What is Star Wars turned into? And then it's just over.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's it. That's it for the news this week. So, sort of sad what we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of go through the year in the show. So, we're gonna give some general thoughts on all these shows. We're gonna play some clips from like our coverage of the year. And Pete mentioned it here. Like we've done season recaps for all these live action shows, plus Tales of the Jedi. So, if you want deeper like analysis and all these things, you can go back in the podcast. You can listen to all these recaps. I'll put the season recaps as a whole in the show notes.
Yeah, we highly recommend it. We go much more in depth than we will on this podcast when it comes to each show. So definitely go back, definitely watch those, and you'll get our full coverage, our full comprehensive coverage of the show. And it's just better knowledge for you guys to have.
That's for sure here. So we got to start with Boba Fett. I mean, technically it started in 2021 because the first episode came out the last week of 2021, and then the last 6 came out in 2022 here. So I know this is a show that's been very divisive in the Star Wars community here, but we'll start out here, Nick. Give me something you like about Book of Boba Fett.
What I liked about the show was the buzz around it. When it was coming out, when it was new, it was a big deal. Everyone was watching it. Everyone was commenting on it. That was a show that every single person I know who likes Star Wars watched every single episode the day it came out. And I enjoyed discussing it with people as it went along. And for example, I remember one episode, can't remember which one it was specifically, but I woke up and I just, I like to scroll my phone before I get out of bed. I was scrolling a little bit on Reddit, and it was a spoiler tag, so I didn't open it. But it said spoiler tag, so it shows you a blurred out image, and will only show you the clear image if you click it. And it was under the Book of Boba Fett subreddit. It said, "Tell me everything about this character," and everyone was. I didn't know who it was because I hadn't watched the episode yet. I went back, watched the episode. It was Black Keg. That was the episode he debuted in, and everyone was going nuts about it. People were so excited that he was there, and that's what I liked about the show, is how much it seemed like it was a big deal on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, I feel like this is our only entry into the Mandoverse this year. Was this show? We got 7 episodes of that. Mando shows up here. I think you and I can both agree. I think this is one of the highlights of the season when Mando appears and like sort of takes over the show for a couple episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the highlight of the season, but I agree with Nick. I think the buzz around this and also the anticipation of a Boba Fett show after seeing him in Mandalorian is what I think was the highlight of the show itself. Episode wise, 100%. The Mandalorian episodes were the best, and we talked about that ad nauseum about how it's also their weakness. But anyway, I mean, between what you two said, there's really not much more to add other than that. This was very hyped up. This was definitely anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good sign when we can sell out the best of Book of Boba Fett in about 2 minutes. Would you agree, Nick?
Yeah, and none of us mentioned like the content of the show. Like, oh, I loved how it was produced.
Or Boba.
Or Boba Fett.
Let's go the other way here for a minute. What didn't we like here? I got to go to Pete for this one because Pete, I feel like, is the most anti-Book of Boba Fett person on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be the anti-Book of Boba Fett person. I'd like to try to give everything the benefit of the doubt, but this show was just it was horrible. There was no plan. There was let me rephrase that. There was a plan, but there was not a plan that would work out for a show like this. This was a movie at best, where in 2.5 hours, 2 hours, you sum up Boba Fett's life in between when you see him in Mandalorian and when we last see him in the movies. I want to talk about the Lego Brickhead now. It was so bad that Lego is releasing a Tusken Raider brickhead, not even a Boba Fett one, a Tusken Raider brickhead. Now, Boba Fett was a brickhead back in the day, but there was also a Darth Vader brickhead, I believe, back in the day that they reprised because of the Obi-Wan show. They are literally only releasing a Tusken Raider brickhead. So even Lego knows that Boba Fett was not the highlight of that show. And it speaks volumes to the writing and what they tried to do. I get the concept and I understand the hype around it. They didn't execute it well at all.
The funny thing is here, like, it's not even like usually it's coming in packs of 2. Some of these guys, it's kind of like they could have done Boba Fett and the Tusken Raider. It's the Tusken Raider,
single pack Tusken Raider. It looks really cool. Don't get me wrong; it's something I'll probably pick up. But if even in the retail market, they're not trying to use the main character of the show, it kind of shows how poorly executed and poorly written the show was.
Yeah, and I also have a fun clip I want to pull from our coverage of this. Like, you air your concerns about this show pretty early on. I think as play by play, he's looking for like our episode 3 recap of Book of Boba Fett. So, P, I'm gonna play this for you now. Tell me like how this aged for you. I think it's like 3 or 4 episodes of the show. So this is from, I think, February, maybe late January, talk about this. But this is Pete's concerns about the Book of Boba Fett.
This show is so terribly organized that it's gonna fail as a whole. And the reason why I say that is because if this kind of organization was in a Star Wars movie, which it kind of was, right? Episode 9, everything was just thrown in like, hey, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I understand episode 9, they were trying to fix stuff in 8. No, I don't think if this was a movie, people would really like this. As much as it's Boba Fett, it's live action. We're excited to have it. And again, we've talked about being spoiled about Mandalorian. If they would have took these 3 episodes, and I'm being totally serious, and I hope someone agrees with me on this, and people listening or you two, if they took these 3 episodes, they trimmed the fat, and they showed the entire flashback from him, Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit to the the desecration of the camp, just the decimation, of the camp. If they showed the assassins trying to get him in the city, they showed the twins coming and leaving, they showed Black K, they showed the Pikes coming, that ending would have set up episode 2, and now you have 6 episodes to work with all of that. Could have had an hour and a half season
premiere.
Could have used these 3 episodes as the first. In my opinion, these episodes reset themselves every single time. I feel like I was watching a first episode these past 3 weeks, and it doesn't work when it comes to week to week. If we were watching this like Clone Wars and I watched 3 episodes in a row, it would feel like it was resetting, but it wouldn't be so prolonged. I'd be like, okay, I got through them, and now we're at the meat and potatoes of the show, and let's say there's 15 more episodes after it. Okay, fine. Like, you can throw those episodes away. We can still work with it. I cannot see them making a successful season with 4 episodes with a little over 50% left.
Nick, he nailed it.
He did. No organization, and that's not my answer for what I didn't like. I mean, it's true. It's not something I liked, but it's not my answer. But he nailed it.
Yeah, P, I feel like everything you told us about after episode 3 came to pass.
Yeah, you know what the for lack of a word, the shitty part of it is even if they did what I suggested, they had no plan. The next 3 episodes would have been crap. So I mean, I hate to say it aged well, because it did, and it's unfortunate. But man, when I mean, I heard people like in the comment section when Mandalorian 4, what's it called, that trailer dropped. They're like, wait, Grogu's back? What happened? People weren't even watching Book of Boba Fett. They didn't even know what was going on.
Pete?
Yeah.
You just called it Mandalorian 4, and that proves your point so much. That proves your point so much.
Right. Say it's Mandalorian 3. So like I am I'm so used to now with Mandalorian being Boba Fett it's its own season. Yeah, it's obviously it's season 3, but it's just I don't know what else to say. It's just horrible. I didn't like it.
Well, I do want to throw in what I didn't like about the show, and what I didn't like about it is I think it spent way too long establishing a villain. So at first we're led to believe that it's what was her name? Madame Garza?
Madame Garza.
I think we're led to believe it was her in the first episode or so. Then we're led to believe it's the twins. Nope, they go off and they're fine. Oh, Madame Garza, she's actually a nice lady. Then we're led to believe it's Black K. No, he ends up joining Boba Fett. Then we're led to believe it's the Pikes, which it ends up being. But, okay, no one cares about the Pikes, and we didn't even know who they, and you don't learn about them at all throughout the series. They're not in it enough, and they don't establish themselves. Oh, wait, it's kind of Cad Bane, but he's there for like 20 minutes. You had Cad Bane show up in the first episode with the Pikes and showed him behind the scenes. Maybe you could build up the Pikes a little bit more and we actually care about them. But at this point, it's like, I don't even care who the villain was. And on top of everything you said, which is so true about the organization, I think if the show had an organized villain from the start, it would have been more entertaining.
You forgot the mayor too, Nick. The mayor was in there too at one point.
Oh, the mayor and his friend. What was the guy's name?
Oh, the mayor's assistant. He doesn't have a name.
Yeah. That guy.
It never named the character. He's just the mayor's assistant.
That, I think, was the big problem, is we couldn't establish a villain, and it was more of a... It was almost like a but like a mystery of who's the killer, who's the bad guy, and it's like we don't find out till the last episode. That's like the opposite of how you should run a show.
Yeah, I'll throw my problem out here as well in terms of, like, I feel like just the fact that they couldn't do anything compelling with Boba himself, and I think Tim Morrison has said this in interviews since then. He wants Boba to go back to being a badass. It's like when we see him show up in Mandalorian season 2, like, he's a badass. He's got his armor. He's kicking stormtrooper ass all the way through this thing. Now, you know, like, he's getting punked by like random street punk criminals. Like, he's a back to tank bath to heal his injuries. Like, looks like we got like the washed up version. We got like 45, like, you got like 38-year-old Peyton Manning, like, with the bad neck trying to like finish out a season. Like, and I think that was a problem here because, like, they really didn't know what to do with him because they did Mando first, and Mando was so popular they stole Boba's shtick and they tried to do something else with Boba. It didn't work.
Yeah, I don't think he works as a main character. You need to humanize the main character in a way that you can relate to them, and he's better just being the muscle, being the badass. And when he takes the helmet off and has to be the main character, I don't think it works.
Yeah, and P, I think my other big issue, I feel like he was like, they tried to make this a gangster show and did not know how to make. And with you said this too on the podcast, I didn't pull a clip, but like he's a gangster who doesn't have any crimes, so he's any criminal rings he's running.
I how do you justify this show, right? If you're a showrunner or a producer that's saying we want to make a show and you bring the script to the table, right? Yes, maybe Mandalorian season 2.5. Let me make sure I get my facts straight because I keep thinking it was season 3 and we're on season 4. How does the company, how does Disney look at this and go, yeah, this is good. This makes sense, even though you have zero direction, even though we don't know who the villain is. It made no sense. They tried their best to have a gangster mentality or whatever, but if I heard I rule with respect one more time and he doesn't know how to use his jetpack anymore, I mean there was so many things that were just egregious, right? How does Boba Fett not use his jetpack when he's getting beaten up by a ring of like guys? Like I don't understand how that doesn't work. You know, there was a lot of poor decisions made to try to make the episode more interesting, when in turn it made the episode more idiotic, in my opinion.
Yeah, one other thing I want to touch on before we sort of wrap up the Boba Fett section here is like bring Mando and Grogu in. Like we know this is Mando 2.5 here. With like they sort of like ran out of ideas for Boba, saying, we got to bring Mandalorian to save the season here. And Nick, I feel like this was sort of something like I'll play a clip on this here real quick, but like the decision to bring Mando and Grogu back together, this was not a story decision. As Pete said on the podcast,
No, of course not.
This was a business decision.
100% business decision.
We saw how popular the Mando Grogu dynamic was, and they decided we cannot possibly wait for you in season 3 to put them back together. We could do it in an entirely different show. And then if for some reason you watched Mando but not this, you would probably be very pissed off if you found this was going on.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is a classic business decision, not story decision. The business decision was that Grogu is probably more popular among non-Star Wars fans than the Mandalorian is. And there you go. Nick's got the shirt on. Quite arguably, maybe Grogu is the more popular character of the Mandalorian and not the actual. Is that a cup?
Yeah, it's like a tiki cup. I haven't opened it yet.
Well, that's what I'm like. A lot. No one's having a Mandalorian tiki cup. We have a Grogu tiki cup. So I would say they cut their main revenue out of the show and went, oh crap, what are we going to do? Grogu became more popular than we thought, right? Because then they filmed seasons 1 and 2 together.
They filmed, I filmed 1, they filmed 2, they were filming 2 as 1 was airing.
Right. So they already had the plan to pretty much get rid of Grogu's character in theory after season 2. And then they saw how popular the child was and they're like, oh crap, we're going to lose a ton of fans if the child isn't in it because some of our fans are probably only watching for Grogu. We need to bring him back for the start of season 3, 100%. And they need to do it. They found a plot hole in the Book of Boba Fett and said, hey, we need content. Let's throw the Mandalorian in there and have the prequel to Mandalorian season 3 be the end of Book of Boba Fett. And that's exactly what they did. That's my opinion. It's not confirmed by, I don't have anyone at Disney telling me this is exactly what their decision was, but I have a pretty strong feeling that that's what happened. Pete,
2 for 2.
I mean,
it wasn't difficult. I mean, I feel like with watching these shows new, like I mean, what we were at? We were at episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett, and nothing was happening. Nothing happened after 5 episodes. Nothing. It was the same crap over and over again. Things were, like I said, resetting. So it was kind of easy to make these decisions and these predictions for that show.
Yeah. Another thing that I don't like about the show, looking back at it, because back then, we were able to say, and I don't know if we said this specifically, I'm sure we did at some point on the podcast, we had said, well, I can't really blame Disney because Disney's not going to do a mafia show. Like, that's kind of the idea. It's like a mob show, right?
Yep.
And we kept saying, well, Disney's not going to do that. Disney's not going to do that. Okay. Fast forward 9 months later, look what they gave us with Andor. They could have done it, and apparently they were okay with doing it, and they would have done it. So that makes it even worse in my mind.
Yeah, I think that does make it much worse. And I do think in terms of the Mando stuff that showed up here, I mean, like he was fun. His stuff was great, but it was sort of the point they made here. Like they had nothing.
So I understand. The Book of Boba Fett was a trailer after Mando 2, right?
Yep.
Do you think they made the executive decision there to make a show so they could bring back Grogu? And that this was not about Boba Fett. This was about the Mandalorian and fixing what they started.
I feel
like the trailer was very easy to make, right? It was just Boba Fett sitting on
killing Ben Fortuna,
right, and sitting on the throne, right? A very easy. I don't want to say easy, but when it comes to production, an easy thing to produce, right? Do you think when they saw, because they were filming season 2 as one was coming out and Grogu was getting popular, do you think they said, crap, we need to find a way because we already marked out how season 3 is going to be? Like, let's just make a show so that we can wrap that up, and Boba Fett's in it, so let's just throw him in because people will watch it. Like, do you think that was their plan?
I think it was partially the plan. I feel like
they just try to throw shit against the wall and see what stuck. I mean, it didn't really like work out until you got Mandalorian in the show.
Nick, I see the process here. I think Pete's on something here. I think this is a combination of that. They had the movie script sitting around. Robert Rodriguez did the great episode with Boba Fett in season 2. And he's like, hey, I can do a show on this. And they're like, great, you're hired. We got to include all this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what happened.
Yeah. All right. So let's add a couple of thick notes in here real quick. I'm going to throw up here. We did at every show, we did the season review. I have an MVP, LVP board for Book of Boba Fett. I don't know why it did not load in here, but I have to figure out where it went. The actual graphics here. Here we go. So let me just pull this one up here. This is the final MVP board for Book of Boba Fett. I have to pull this up here. We had 2 clips I want to play in relation to this, but here we go here. So the MVPs of Book of Boba Fett here. Fennec Shand was the MVP of Book of Boba Fett +5. Mando +4, Boba Fett +3. So Pete, bad sign the main character is third on his own show.
Honestly, he should have been dead last.
We'll get to who's dead last, but
no, I know, but
yeah, Cyberpunk Power Rangers +2. We are the only ones on the internet, Nick, who love these guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild looking at this.
Cad Bane +2, +1s, the Black K, Gamorrean Guards, Luke Skywalker, Cobb Vanth, and Grogu. The Tusken Raiders end up at 0. I don't remember how that happened. -1s, the Twins, the Towel Rat from our friend Mike Brescia, Bib Fortuna, Pelimato, the Mayor, Robert Rodriguez from me. That was my LVP point. And the Pike Syndicate. -2, the writers. -3, Madam Garson, the mayor's assistant. And Deputy Scott was the worst character at -5.
Looking back, like some of the things I see that right away, I'm like, wow, really? The mayor's assistant was very annoying, right?
It was bad to start.
But he was a fantastic character.
Yeah, I think he just got docked because that's the slow speed chase he was in.
Yeah, and then you look at like Boba and the Cyberpunk Power Rangers, and I'm like, really? They were up there, and like Black K, he should have been higher. Like Luke Skywalker only got 1 point. Like
he was in 1 episode.
Only one of us gave him a point. That means so. Like when we look back at this, I see a lot of. It's like when you look at your fantasy football draft around Christmas time, and you're like, someone picked Cole Kmet over Chris Olave, like, stuff like that.
Yeah, 2 clips I want to play here. First, Pelimato is on the board. I think for a lot of reasons. I think this is probably one of them.
So great scene, great montage. Very confusing about dating the Jawa, though.
Yeah, Pete, we learned that apparently the Jawas are very furry.
I don't know why she had to say it so many times. I think the once was enough. Like she said like 3 times. She's like, don't forget, I dated one of them. Like, are you trying to tell us that's what was going on? Like, we got it. Like, you don't have to keep throwing it in our face. Yeah, I don't know. Were they trying to quote unquote humanize the Jawa that they can have relationships and stuff? I don't know where that was coming from. Maybe again, comic relief, because as Nick is laughing under his breath in the microphone, I'm laughing too, because it's just like it's just so weird. It's so out of left field.
Yeah. This is basically the 3rd time she's talking about the Jawa relationship. I'm sitting there going,
oh, good for you.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good summary of why she's on the board, Nick.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember people loved her character. To me, I hate her.
All right, and last but not least on the clips before we move on here, we got to talk about Deputy Scott because he's by far one of the worst characters of the year. So this one is why we all dinged him.
I would have to give it to Deputy Scott. Like he's just an idiot. Like what are you doing? Like he's telling you, your boss is telling you to go inside. You're like, nah, I'm gonna stay right here and get you shot. Like what? I don't think, he just caused problems. And I feel like he's the only character that had more screen time than Boba Fett that did the worst in the episode. So I have to give it to him.
Nick, who's your LVP?
I'm going with Pete, Deputy Scott. He right away from when we first saw him when Mando showed up, it was just like, oh, this guy's annoying,
Yeah.
Right away, I knew he was. Oh no, what wasn't that when Mando showed up? Wasn't it? When did he first show up?
He's a Mando shows up because he's basically trying to be a tough guy. Mando gets there saying, yeah. He's like, yeah, you park your ship over there.
Yeah, I was confused on whether it was the Mando showed up or the Wade beginning with the Pikes, but no, it was then. He was or very annoying. I think that's going to be a clean sweep. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, so I confirm that Deputy Scott's the LVP this episode. He is by far the worst character we've seen this season. Like, he is a complete moron. He tries to be a tough guy when he shouldn't be. Cobb Vanth has better instincts. He's not listening to his boss. He exacerbates the situation with Cad Bane and gets himself killed. I mean, he's dead because of his own stupidity. So he deserves the LVP.
He's a worse character than the mayor's assistant, because the mayor's assistant's annoying, but he's kind of funny. You know what I mean?
This guy just sucks.
Yeah.
I think about sums it up, Pete.
Complete idiot. He's
yep.
Idiot. He sucks. You're right. It sums it up greatly.
Also, Nick, one last thing before we close. I think I should have combined Rod Rodriguez and the writers. They should just be a -3 for Rod Rodriguez in terms of this board.
Yeah, I agree. We went against that in our future stuff here.
Yeah, one for each episode he directed should have -3.
Right.
All right. Now let's move on to Obi-Wan Kenobi, the second show we got this year here. So, Pete, tell us what you liked about Obi-Wan.
I really like getting this layer of story that I feel like we didn't see. I like the action. I like that we saw Darth Vader at pretty much his full potential. I feel like every time we saw Darth Vader, he was either in like a 1970s version or 80s version, so like the action wasn't as great, and I feel like we weren't seeing Darth Vader in his prime, and I feel like we could see the emotion of Anakin still inside of Darth Vader. We could see the emotion of Obi-Wan. Overall, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, there's things to improve on. Obviously, there's the gripes that we have for it. But I think overall, it was a fantastic show.
Nick, what'd you think? What'd you like about Obi-Wan?
I think it brought us some things that were really cool and things I wanted to see in Star Wars. We got to see Hayden Christensen play Vader again. We got to see that scene where he kind of like chopped off half the mask there. We got to see Uncle Owen and Luke a little bit, and Tatooine, and just a lot of things in Star Wars. I'm like, I wonder how that went down. And like, we got to see it. That's nice.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the ones I liked here. I pulled the clip here of the helmet sequence here because that's like one of the big things from the finale. Again, want more detailed coverage of season recap. Obi-Wan Kenobi is linked in the show notes here, but this is the helmet sequence. This is from the finale, our coverage of that.
This is so poetic right here because Ahsoka and Obi-Wan were the two, and Padme, of course, but she's not with us anymore, were the two closest people to Anakin right before his turn. Now, I know he hadn't seen Ahsoka in a while, and then he saw her for a little bit and then turned, but his biggest supporters, if you will, the two people that cared about him the most were Ahsoka and Anakin, or excuse me, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. And both of them have a similar duel with him, see him in the light a little bit, see him go back to the dark with the helmet half open, and then, to make it even more poetic, Ahsoka one side, Obi-Wan one side, Luke the whole helmet.
Nick, I think you nailed that.
I think the writing was on the wall with that one.
Yeah, I like that as well. I also thought Pete was good to get Ewan McGregor back in this role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, the fact he's aged, I think about like 15 years, like made the right age fit for where the character is at that point. And he doesn't make much story sense why he like all of a sudden, like in 10 years, he's supposed to be Alec Guinness and like Owen Baru or like Haggard at that point. But like his performance, I think, was worth it.
I agree. I don't have any issues with his performance. I think he did a phenomenal job.
All right. this now I think again, much like Boba Fett, I feel like there's a lot of things we did not like about this show here. So Nick, you want to tell us what this show got wrong?
I think it's very simple. I don't think the show was necessary at all. I don't. I enjoyed seeing things that I was asking questions about, absolutely, but the show wasn't necessary. It like there's ways you could explain it, but I think it kind of puts a damper on some of the things that we watched in A New Hope, where it's like, oh, I haven't seen him since like the last time we met, and yet technically that stuff still makes sense, but I don't think that was the way it was intended, and I just don't think the show should have existed. And I think it tried really hard to be flashy and cameo heavy in a way. And I just don't think it needed to happen. And it did more harm than good.
Yeah, P, I do feel like we complain about this a lot on this podcast that like how Star Wars is obsessed with like fitting like their entire stories like this narrow strip of continuity, especially here. Like you could see the writing was like twisted up and knots to try and like not affect what happened in episode 4, but still tell its own story.
Yeah, and I think you kind of have that effect when episode 3 comes out, when for episode 5, when we find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father, right? I think he loses that wow factor, right? People that are watching in the 80s were like, holy crap, the big bad guy is actually the good guy's dad. But like when episode 3 came out movie wise, I feel like it kind of brought that shock factor down, because if you watch them in order, when it comes to chronological order, you already knew this. This is not a big shock factor. So I think it has the same effect. I don't think it cheapens episode 4 at all. Just like I don't think episode 3 really cheapens episode 5. I have my own thoughts about episode 5 when it comes down to the movie rankings, which you can watch in the previous podcast. But like I said, it has the same effect. It loses that wow factor, and it you kind of lose that like awe. I think one of the things I would have liked to see change was Reva's character's arc. I think they just didn't execute that well. I understand what they were trying to do, but it I don't think it worked out very well for them. And I think that the lack of I don't want to say story for the Inquisitors, more like the lack of execution for the Inquisitors is probably the detriment to the show for me.
I think for me, I think you sum up some of the stuff I say is I feel like my main problem with the show is like, I feel like the Obi-Wan and Anakin stuff was great and the Vader stuff was great, but like this, how we got there, some of the writing choices were made here were very, very, very stupid. And I feel like there's a lot of times that like we make like supporting characters look like idiots to like sort of like just speed the story along, or we're cutting corners to like, jamming these certain run times. Like I remember the infamous like scene in episode 4 where like we have the Roken conversation where like he's like, I can't help you. 30 seconds later, what I'll do whatever you need. Like stuff like that. Like the writing's too lazy.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
And Pete, I want, in terms of the writing here, I got to set up here. Like we have to talk about episode 4, where our good friend Alex Asano was here with us, filling in while Nick was on his honeymoon here. We had to I talk about bad writing on this show. The Empire security at their base, that's got to be very high up there. Pete, who's your LVP?
So can I give it to like 17 people? Can I just give it to the Empire? They suck. They're just horrible.
I think I have the answer for you, Pete.
The Empire.
Imperial security.
Security was got bonked in the head. What to do? I don't look. I am not going to sit here and say I would understand or know what to do in a situation where a prisoner is trying to fight me. Okay, I can't say I know that situation. Can't say I understand that situation. You're in armor and you get bonked and you're holding a gun. Shoot! Like one is gonna like be mad at you if you were protecting yourself from an Imperial officer that they make it seem like is no big deal, right? Traitor, fine. She has information about the paths, fine. I get it. Maybe don't shoot, but just give it to the Empire as a whole.
Yeah, I'm looping with you here. We're calling Imperial security here. This is going to be the other LVP from me, just because, again, this is basically one Jedi, one traitor, and a kid managed to get out of a base with 3 Inquisitors, a whole like hundreds of stormtroopers, a bunch of officers, and a bunch of like weapons on their disposal. How they got out of the base makes no sense.
Not recognize a full-grown man with a set of like little girl feet sitting next to you.
Beard out the freaking face, like he's got barely a cap on. He's got the biggest beard in the room.
Yeah, like how do you just overlook a 10-year-old girl in a military base? That
also has the fact that I didn't mention here the fact that like when they're walking, you see an officer walking with a man whose cape just balloons at his like out into his torso, but the chest is not matched the right proportions as well. That also looks odd.
you're gonna have to bleep this out, but the Empire are a bunch of fucking idiots. They suck.
Yeah, Nick, we went from this show's writing to Andor's writing. It's like going from like pre-K to like master's level education.
Yeah, something else, huh?
Yeah.
Pete though on the clips, undefeated so far.
Yeah, Pete's nailing it on the cliffs.
Thanks, guys. I don't know. I just feel like I'm reacting to what everyone's seeing. I think early on in this year, I think we discussed not giving the writers LVP points because the writers are the ones that give us the good episodes as well. But Star Wars has this funny thing of making the Empire look so stupid, and Nick's brought this up a bunch too. And to his credit, I'm taking that from him right now by saying like they make them look stupid all the time. And this was a perfect example of we need to get them out of here, so let's make them look dumb as they always do.
I'm telling you, Pete, I'm gonna make a cut for the board for next year. I'm gonna basically cut the end clip that says the Empire are fucking idiots and have that on the soundboard for when we need it.
Honestly, I feel like that's needed for a lot of Star Wars stuff. So sure, let's rock with it. I'm down.
Yeah, so that's gonna be on the soundboard coming here. And since you brought up the MVPs and the LVPs, I'm gonna put that one up here. We'll go to Obi-Wan. Our board's smaller, obviously. There's only 6 episodes here, but Obi-Wan Kenobi was the MVP of his own show at +8. Darth Vader +5. Tala +3. Owen and Beru Lars +2 each. +1s for Ahaja and Leia. Bail Organa got a -1. Roken got -1. So the 5th brother and Leia's cousin, and the writers where he changed it. Reva and Reva at -2. She's not Reva. Then the other side here, the -4s. The aforementioned Imperial Security, Disney, which I think is going to become a catch-all for production, and the Flea Gang. Nick, this was I think the worthy trio will be on the bottom.
I feel like Rogan should be there, but he's not.
Yeah.
Top of the list looks good, so I'm excited. What do you have for us? I believe you have a clip for us.
I do. I got to talk about our pal Flea, so I got to go here and talk about that one. This is why Flea's at the bottom of the board. So here's Flea. Nick, how was it?
Mike, we got a worse chase scene than we did in Book of Boba Fett.
You want the Cyberpunk kiss to come back?
Yes.
This was only lasted about, what?
2 minutes?
90 seconds, 2 minutes. That was the worst 2 minutes of television I've seen in a long time.
I wasn't even getting to that yet. I was going to say, like, how much it take you out of this when we turn around and Flea is one of the bad guys?
That was odd. Very odd. And honestly, like, I don't really know him as a person. I never heard him even speak outside of this, but I like him as a musician. But I'm really getting a little tired of, like, everyone getting a cameo in Star Wars.
Yeah, Pete, what was more like off-putting, Thundercat and Boba Fett or Flea here?
I don't know. This scene was rough. I got to be honest. I don't know. Obviously, you probably can't find like a stunt kid for a chase scene, so she was probably doing her best as the actress. But don't make it a chase scene, right? Like you don't need that 90 seconds if you know that, let's say, the actress can't run really fast to make the actors that are the bounty hunters can't catch her, right? If you're going to kidnap her, you kidnap her, and that's it. I don't.
Yeah, there's no negative impact on her character by taking her right away.
Correct. I mean, it's not like yes, you want to show that Leia's putting up a fight, but you show that in episode 2. You don't need that 60 to 90 second slow ass chase scene. And again, I think it's because of the limitations of the actress. You can't get I don't think you can get a stunt kid to come in and run faster than adults through the woods. I just don't think it looks correct. So I understand what they were probably trying to go for, but the same effect happens if you just kidnap her. If she runs for a little bit and you get her, and then the show continues. I don't think that chase scene's necessary.
Nick, you're right. That was worse than the Cyberpunk chase scene.
It was.
Yep. That's why Flea is on the LEP board.
Yeah, that was real bad. It didn't get much better in the next episode when Obi-Wan was chasing her around the city.
Well, my mistake here, Pete. Did they kill off the Flea gang?
I can't remember. Did they?
Nick, I'm pretty sure they died.
I honestly do not remember either.
I'm gonna look this up here while I try and figure this out here. But while we have this going on here, let's go to we'll go with chronological here. Go to Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation here. Pete, we did not hear from you on this thing. What did you think of it?
So I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I didn't get a chance to watch it. That is the honest to God truth. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time. I think I was on vacation at that point, right?
You were.
You're on your own vacation.
And my plan was to watch it before this podcast, and I didn't get the chance. So I apologize. But Nikki, you're gonna have to take my part of the segment over here.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
it was really fun. You have to remind me on some of the segments there, Mike. I remember we had the Vader and Palpatine at the beach, but what were the other ones?
Obi-Wan goes undercover at a party for a working vacation.
And then there was one with like Finn, right?
Yeah, it was Finn was the main character of this one.
Oh, yeah.
The other one is like young Ben Solo getting dropped off at Luke's camp, and he goes to Endor, and then like he gets himself in trouble.
Yeah, I remember specifically really loving the Vader Palpatine one.
Yeah, that one was like that was on. There was the first real beach planet we got outside of Scarif.
I thought it was Scarif.
Yeah, I think they went to Scarif afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you meaning the Vader and?
Yep.
Vader and Palpatine went to Scarif. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did recommend it, Pete. It was a lot of fun. 45 minutes here. You know, like they had some fun stories they tell. It was very much in the vein of the Halloween one from last year.
I have to apologize to the fans and to you guys because I should have done my show prep and watched it, but it is definitely in my watch list, and it's definitely something I am going to check out soon.
Yeah, I did also look up here. The Flea and his gang were killed by the Grand Inquisitor, so the GI should have been on the MVP board for that.
Okay, yeah, it was an off-screen death, right?
No, like literally, he just kills him with the spinning lightsaber.
Oh, they were in the room, the small room.
Yes.
I remember now.
Yeah,
now.
So the GI should have gotten love from us for that.
I mean, I know we try not to nitpick, and when people do nitpick, we try to say, "Oh, you're nitpicking," but it's been how long now since they showed Obi-Wan's trailer? Like, I don't know, 10 months. Came out around the Super Bowl, a little after.
Yep.
The Grand Inquisitor looked horrible, and it took me out of it completely. I'm not going to forgive them for that. Like, that was a very obvious thing. He looked terrible. It looked nothing like him. They could have put some more makeup on to make it look right. I know they wanted to use Rupert's friend, I believe.
Yep.
But you could have made him look more. I know he's a very weird shaped head. He kind of looks like a Martian, but they could have made it work. Just a little more makeup. Use the yellow eyes. Like, what are you doing? Like, was that on purpose? I still don't get that.
Pete, worst animated to live action transition here, him or Cad Bane?
I thought Cad Bane looked pretty damn good. I mean, I understand that it wasn't perfect, but for what they had to do with the budget they probably had, I thought Cad Bane was actually a really good likeliness of what they had in Clone Wars. I mean, I think they could have done a lot better. They probably used all their budget all up on the Darth Vader, the last probably scene against Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, probably, trying to make that look cool. And they made a really bad decision to say, well, the Grand Inquisitor is not going to be around for most of the episodes, so we're not going to make him look exactly correct. I think that was a major flop for them. I agree with Nick.
Mike, do me a favor.
Yeah.
See if you could find this picture, and if you could, please share the screen. Can you look up a picture? It can be any picture. It doesn't have to be a specific picture. A picture of Dooku with Christopher Lee and Dooku in animation. And my point is, these characters do not look the same at all. But there's something about them that makes him look significantly better than the Grand Inquisitor. And if you could find it, please let me know.
You know what I think it is? Because
I have one. I don't have to share the screen, I'll be honest with you.
What I think it is I think the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan looks like he has makeup on. I think that's the issue. I don't think they made it realistic. Even if the head shape was different and the markings were a little different, if they made it a little bit more realistic to what it was supposed to be, I think that would have been the okay, like the whole Count Dooku doesn't look the same in animated in real life, but it's a human, so you expect the human to look like that. This, it was just, I mean, he just looks like he has makeup on and like a false head, you know. So I think that was the issue. I just don't think they put much pride into it.
So here's exactly what I'm getting at. If you can't find a picture, it's not a big deal. I can explain it. It's Count Dooku is a human. He's a male. He's lighter skinned. He has white hair and a beard. He has brown eyes, a little bit of a hairline, and his hair slicked back. All of that remains in his animated self. That's fine, even if it looks very different. The Grand Inquisitor has yellow eyes. He didn't have yellow eyes in Obi-Wan. That's like a big part of his character, having the yellow eyes, the Sith eyes, and you took it away.
Yep.
He has mark coming down his head vertically. They're not there anymore. They're really hard to distinguish. That, to me, is just like kind of inexcusable because it's not right. It's not true to the character. If you made him with all those, if you gave him those lines, you gave him the eyes, fine. Because I understand characters look very different in animation than they do in live action, but he's missing significant, or he's missing important features.
Yeah, I mean, if you could give Anakin the kind of yellow eyes episode 3, there's no reason you couldn't do it with River Friend.
Yeah.
All
Palpatine had him.
He did. We'll go real quick. Tales of the Jedi here. I feel like we just did this last week. Not go too bonkers on this. So, give me the 2-second version here, Nick. What like Tales of the Jedi? What you liked?
I thought the fact that we got to see more about Dooku was amazing, and anything more about Dooku, anything more about Palpatine, anything more even about Yoda, Mace Windu, like characters if we don't know a lot about their past, I'm in.
P, anything you want to add from last week? Again, I'm going to link to last week's podcast if you want to go back to it.
We're doing just what we liked, not both.
You could do either way.
Yeah. So I mean, I really like that we got a lot more information, like Nick was saying. But the only thing I didn't like was they wasted the first episode. That was like my main gripe.
Yeah, I feel like again, I knew why Ahsoka was in there. I just wish that we had done a different character to go with Dooku than Ahsoka.
That's also fair.
Because as you said, this is basically anything Dave Filoni's involved in Ahsoka is like the number one characters in it. Even in Rebels, and it looks like shouldn't be there, she's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go now to the highlight of the year, which came out of nowhere. Was Andor being like not only the best Star Wars show we've gotten this year, but like up in the conversation with House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, one of the 3 best shows of the year. I don't think we would have seen this coming, Pete.
So I'll be honest, I definitely did, and I think the consensus for me, and I don't know if you have this backlogged, was I don't know what to expect, and I don't know what they could do with it. And I was afraid it was going to be another Book of Boba Fett. I really was, and I think they delivered phenomenally. And I think that the way they formatted this show of like a world building experience, I think that's why it starts to compare to House of Dragon, Rings of Power, stuff like that. Like I said, if you asked me before the show started, I was very skeptical about how good it was going to be. But now that after I watched it, I'm excited for season 2, and I hope they don't mess up season 1. Right? I hope they deliver on season 2. We have a nice, great 2 seasons, and we end it on a great note, and we kind of move forward from there.
I'm excited for our first season 2. I know we've had it in Amanda, but we didn't cover it. Like this will be our first season 2 that we're covering, a show that we already know about. We don't have to go in there saying, how's this show going to be? What are the characters going to be like? We know, and it's exciting to cover a show that we've covered before.
Oh, you're shortchanging Bad Batch a little bit.
What's that?
Shortchanged Bad Batch a little bit because they are going to get season 2 first.
That's what I mean. I'm talking about Bad Batch.
Yeah. Oh, that's about Andor.
Oh no, I was talking about Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Andor was something else. We love Andor.
Yeah, and Nick, you were the biggest Andor supporter on the podcast. You were the one that said this is going to be just what we need, sort of breath of fresh air, something different. So, like, tell me what you love about Andor.
You just said it. Exactly what we needed is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It was it. It was exactly what we didn't have in Star Wars. It was, I think, what shied people away from shows like Obi-Wan and Boba Fett is exactly what drew people into Andor. They didn't do. You don't need to watch 48 hours of the Clone War or more. I don't know how much it is if you watch the whole show, and 9 movies to understand what's happening in this one specific thing. That's big criticism people have with like the MCU and Marvel is like, oh, I got to watch 27 movies to go to the movies tonight. But with this, you don't have to. All you have to know to watch the show, the Empire exists. If you watch the original trilogy, great. If not, it's not a big deal. The Empire exists. They're evil. That's all you need to know.
I give this show credit too. Like, I don't think you need to have watched Rogue One, where he came from, to have a good take on this show and have fun with it.
No, because it's a prequel to Rogue One. I mean, this is a great show to me. You want to get into Star Wars. I think if you're not someone who likes science fiction or anything like that, watch this show. And I think that'll get you into the Star Wars universe seamlessly. And you can watch this without spoiling anything. I mean, we had no cameos. We had no tracker. Like, it was literally its own thing. Like you had said, breath of fresh air. And it was human. It was something like watching even though Game of Thrones is sci-fi or fantasy or whatever, but it was like watching a Game of Thrones. It was like I connect with these characters a little bit. I care what happens to this character. I care about the story. I care about Andor's mother. I care about all this kind of stuff. So I mean, I think it was definitely a surprise to me.
The thing I loved other shows typically is like that we took so much time to, like, as you said earlier, this is not a cameo party like Book of Boba Fett episode 6 was, where everybody from everything showed up to this, like, hang out for an episode. Like, we got only characters we had legacy wise that we really had any connection with were Andor himself from Rogue One, Saw Gerrera, and Mon Mothma. But even then, we basically made a new version of Mon Mothma out of nothing, and then we introduced all these new characters over the course of the show. We mean, we go to our MVP board at the end of this section here, like, it was so full compared to everything else because there's so many characters developed and have motives, and we learn about them, and we're basically shown what they are and not told. I think that helps a lot, Nick.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you.
Anything? Yeah, I feel we got to stay in this section. A lot of things we love about Andor here. So anything else you want to add about, like, what was good about Andor?
What was good about it?
Yes.
I think I just said it. No, I think it was the best written show. I think it was the best directed show. I think all of it was the best, to be honest with you. Best acted show. Everything, I think, was the best of any Star Wars show. And I'll stretch that further. I think Andor is the best Disney Plus show ever.
Yeah, it's high praise over the Mandalorian or any of, like, the Marvel stuff. Like, this is it.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is the best Disney Plus show there has been yet.
Yeah, P. In terms of the writing, I think I liked also at this show is that, like, yes, we had, like, like they had these sort of episode arcs where we sort of, like, told parts of the story together, and then we moved on to another one that's, like, loosely connected to the previous one. Like, really felt like a true serialized storytelling experience, opposed to, like, some of these other shows we've gotten.
I agree. The only thing I would say about the writing is Luthen's character, to me at least, and I know this is not the popular opinion, but to me, flip-flopped and kind of lost his mojo, if you will, toward the end there. But I agree. The writing, the world building, the character arcs, the character development, you were engaged. I think that's the main thing for me. I was engaged. I cared.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, I didn't care. I understood, but I didn't care what happened to the Tusken Raiders in the flashback. Like, I didn't care. So I think if the Mandalorian can follow this same style moving forward, maybe Mandalorian season 4 instead of season 3, because that's probably been already it was already in production when Andor is being written and stuff, I'm sure. I think Mandalorian could get to that level, but I agree with Nick. I think this is the best Disney Plus show that they produced, especially live action Star Wars show. And I hope it wins the awards that it's up for, because I think it deserves it.
Nick, I'm curious. I'm gonna go back in a couple of weeks. We're gonna rewatch Mando season 1. I feel like we're gonna get ready for Mandalorian. I hear we're gonna have some Mando cuts coming up on the podcast. We sort of talk about each season as a whole. Like, I feel like Mando want to compare how this sort of handled this, where, like, at this point, like, there were very few legacy characters in the show. I mean, technically, Grogu is, like, that copy legacy character, same for Mando, but, like, they did a similar thing with introducing a lot of new characters, sort of building them up and, like, getting us invested in their fates as the show went on here. Season 2 is where all the cameos started coming in here. I think season 1 would be a good comparison to see how this show goes.
I agree. I just don't think it was as good. I had no issues with Mandalorian season 1. It was good, but I don't think it was as good as what we got in Rogue One. And I think we're going to see that when we go back and watch it again.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And think in terms of like what we like here. I mean, obviously, I think all the character building was here. I do think like even like these minor characters who we get for like 2 episodes and then they're gone. I think that they leave an impact on us here. Like Nick, I'll give you a good example here. Like, remember Nemec, how big important he becomes after his 3 episodes and he dies?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Your brother actually made the argument when he came onto the podcast for recap episode 6 of Andor when he dies that he's the most important character, one of the most important characters in Star Wars. So let me play his argument for that. So this is from episode 6 of our Andor coverage.
I think he was an important character to Cassian because we had mentioned this, and I think we had mentioned this last week when we had Dan on, that he goes from selfish to selfless, and it took someone to show him that way, and it looks like it was him.
Yeah, Phil, what do you think about Nemec?
I actually think Nemec is and this is going to sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I actually think he's one of the most important characters in any Star Wars show ever. And the reason why is because the original trilogy, and I think it's because the movies were kind of geared a little bit towards children, doesn't really explain why there are these rebels in the first place, right? So you know that there's these big bad guys, and then there's these rebels who are rebelling against the bad guys, but it's kind of unclear why the rebels are motivated to the cause anyway. Nemec actually puts some sort of a philosophical perspective behind the cause. And then you can start to understand, okay, there are philosophical objections to the Empire, and that is able to motivate people to join a rebellion. And then they also give you a little bit of stories about how the Empire has harmed families and things of that sort, which kind of now you can understand the boots on the ground, right? So in the original trilogy, you understand why the Jedi, the few remaining, are rebellious against the Empire, but you don't really understand why are there henchmen or soldiers trying to defend Princess Leia as they're getting slaughtered by Darth Vader? Why are those guys doing that? Why don't they just say, you know what, I want to switch sides? And now you understand why.
Yeah, Pete, we see stuff like this happen where we have this whole character who's here for a couple episodes. He gets his whole backstory. He gets this important moment where he teaches Cassian something, and Cassian's carrying the manifesto around with him the rest of the season. We get this writing compared to Roken having his 30-second heel turn with the Obi-Wan. I mean, like, this shows you that this show is on a far superior level than anything else that we're getting.
Well, I looked up a piece of the manifesto from Nemec, and it's funny. I think Nemec's the very first character that has the rebellion built on hope.
Yeah,
I think that we normally think of this from Leia saying we have hope. A New Hope is the first movie, but literally at the end of this piece of the manifesto is rebellions are built on hope. Remember this. Try. And it's funny that now another character takes that away from like a mainstream character that we know and love. And literally from the beginning, we find out with a lot of other words that make a lot of sense. And there's a lot of pieces of these manifestos. Go look it up, go listen to the episode and actually listen to what Nemec is saying. It literally explains the Empire down to a T. Down to every little I that's dotted in the manifest. It's literally perfect, and it explains everything, and it makes sense. So it's very powerful, and I agree with Nick's brother.
Yeah, Nick, I think Phil did a good job sort of summing up how important Nemec is, and this is a great sort of writing. We get these characters like him. We get like Andy Serkis's character Kino Loy, who gives the speech of all time in episode 10, which is I think one of the best episodes of the year. We'll get to more of that in a minute, but like all these characters, like it's not relying on flashy special effects or lightsaber or space battles, like just like the politics of Star Wars. You get like really on display well here.
Yep, the whole Mon Mothma storyline I think is something that took a long time to develop, but it ended up being brilliant when we saw it out, how it played out, and how it ended. So the politics I think were a good thing, and people didn't like them at the prequels, I think, at the time, but I think a lot of people have grown to appreciate that aspect of Star Wars, and I'm excited for what comes next in Andor.
And you guys want to add the positives before we give our few negatives out on this show?
No, nothing to add.
P, you good on the positives?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the negatives here. So I'll go to you first, Pete, here. Like, what did you not like about Andor?
I I didn't like that. I felt like individual episodes, if you look at the show individual episodes wise, there was probably only like 4 that were really strong out of the 12. I didn't like how like the second arc, excuse me, didn't end as excitingly as I thought it would have. Theatrically, I think they could have done things a little bit better. However, season as a whole, and I said this before in our recap, season as a whole makes this show amazing. It's the individual episodes that you look at it and say to a casual fan, "Hey, watch this episode by episode, week by week." If I'm waiting 3 weeks for the end of the raid to get all the money, and I see that, and that's it, I'm like, that for me, I was like, that was it. That was the big lead up. We led up to all of this, and that's what happens. Same thing with the final episode. The final episode was good. It was meaningful. But if you really look at what happens in that episode, not a lot happens. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot that is happening in the background of the rebellion starting and people of Ferrix rebelling against, the Empire's presence there. But this isn't anything new that we've seen start. Like, there wasn't any like big moments. It was, let's sneak out of here with Andor and Bix, and that was the end of it. So I think the moments that were supposed to be big could have been bigger. But that's really my only gripe with it.
Nick, any big gripes for Andor?
I think my only big gripe is kind of what Pete said, that episode by episode, it seems like it doesn't fit their model. Their model is not the binge model. That's not the Disney Plus way. It's the week over week episode that you have a 10 episode season. It's going to take you, unless they double up, 10 weeks. This show doesn't fit that. This show's better for the binger. And that's my only negative in the show, is that it doesn't really fit their model.
Yeah, I think my only negative here is I feel like that, like, apart from like, the individual episodes may not pop like as highly as like, we may not be as like over the top wow as some of these like other shows are. I feel like in terms of like character wise, I feel like there was like one character who I think like hurt the show a bit. I do think the way they wrote Karn, I think, was bad for the show. I mean, Kyle Soller acted the hell out of the character, and like the writing, like the way he did this was great. But I do think the way he was written, they brought the story down whenever he was on the screen.
It was like awkward when he was on the screen.
Yeah, because it's sort of like, for me, Pete, we've said this on probably a couple of recaps. Like, whenever he was there, I felt like we were sort of like stopping momentum, like what was going on with these other storylines.
You know what's funny? I actually gave a lot of thought to Karn's character, and I kind of unapologetically compare it to Michael Scott in The Office. Michael Scott in The Office is the most awkward character you'll ever see, but I think because of that awkwardness, it makes the character great. And I think they were trying their best to set up the desperation that he has, the obsession that he has. I think they did a great job at that. And like you said, I think the actor acted the hell out of that character. So retrospectively looking at it, I kind of understand it. And I'm not as mad as I was, or as like kind of like cringed as I was, because some characters are written to be that way. So you feel that awkwardness, so that maybe you can understand what's going to happen in the next season or whatever, or understand their kind of motives and their personality.
Yeah, I do have a great moment from our episode, I think 9 podcast with Karn. Our friend Kevin Lillis came on the podcast to talk about how creepy he was when he was stalking Dedra. So I'm going to play that one here.
Am I missing something? Because as the conversation went on, absolutely, I agree with her. But at the beginning, when he just thanked her for doing a part in his promotion, why was that so creepy to her?
Oh, he's kind of, like, we're standing there, like, not even, like, he's not even pretending to talk to somebody. He's just standing there. As soon as he sees her, he pops out. It's like, that's like very, the way he.
I can see her being a little startled. As the conversation went on, I definitely see why she was creeped out. But I feel like she was prematurely creeped out by him actually being nice at the beginning of that conversation.
Well, if you think about it, she took him in for an interrogation, for questioning. And if you take someone in for questioning, I would say 99.99% of the time, you're not going back to thank them. She's probably like, why is this guy back? What does he want? Is he dangerous? You know what I'm saying? So, like, maybe that's why. I don't know.
He also says that he sometimes walks by the office and stands outside to see if she sees her. And he admitted that to her.
That was later on. And that, I understand. That's when I would have got creeped out too. But initially, he was like, I just wanted to thank you because what you did led to me getting promoted. And she's like, that's weird. Like, that, to me, it was like, okay, yeah, you're welcome. And then I'd walk away.
Yeah. And then that's what he grabs her on, though, and keeps her in the conversation also. That also makes it worse.
It definitely gets worse. I'm just saying the initial part, I think she was prematurely creeped out.
And also, P, I mean, if that's the lead in, like, that could be done via an email. It doesn't need to be like, I'm stalking your office to find you in person to thank you for the job.
The dude is whacked. Like, he's out of his mind. He is obsessive. He's obsessing over Andor. And now that this might be true, and I kind of stumbled upon this, now that he's obsessing with Andor and there's someone else trying to get Andor, he's now obsessing with them. Yeah. He's obsessing over them. So this character now is like, well, this is the next step to get Andor because they want to get Andor. So let me get close. Don't leave. I need you. You need me. I need you. Thank you so much. You know, he probably tried to put on the nice face and go, hey, thanks so much for promoting me. Maybe like a little networking. And then he saw it wasn't working and he started getting really creepy. He looked like he hasn't slept in days. It looks like he's probably on something, right? I mean, it's just, maybe there's a little something more in that blue milk in the morning. I don't know. I think he's obsessing over Andor, and because this one trying to find Andor, he's obsessing over her now.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good like character moment for see how creepy Karn was, Pete.
It was, yeah.
Before we get to the MVP LV section, I do have something fun here. Nick, have you perused around the StarWars.com website lately?
I have not.
They have a fun quiz we're going to play right now live on the podcast. And on the YouTube version, I'm going to share the screen here. Which Andor character are you? So we're going to answer as a team. We're going to see if we can figure out here what character we are.
Okay.
So we're going to take this quiz together here. So what do you believe is your greatest strength here? We go with my wit, my penchant for precision, my diplomatic way of speaking, or my poker face. So Nick, I'll give you the first answer.
The top right, the precision.
Penchant for precision. Okay. Question 2. What would your friend say is your greatest weakness, Pete? Loyalty, I'm always tired, trouble focusing on the next task, or relying on my family ties for my own career?
Probably I'm always tired.
Okay. I'll take question 3 here. Which character in Andor do you want on your kickball team? Clea Markey, Kino Loy, Dedra Miro, Velsarth. Nick, we got to take Kino.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Such a weird question.
Be a good kickball player, probably.
I mean, Kino can kick some ass. He can
Even if he's not good, he's at least a good bench guy. You know,
he's a good morale builder.
Yeah, and I also think he'd be good in addition to that. So either way, you're winning.
All right. Question 4, Nick. What do you like to do for fun? Solve puzzles, try new cuisine, travel, or go to the beach?
Cuisine.
Okay. Question 5, Pete. What's your favorite subject in school? History, business, math, or English?
Math.
Okay. Question 6 for me.
How many questions are there? 10.
10. Okay. What was your favorite after school activity? Chess club, debate club, robotics club, or drama club? I'm going to go debate club. Question 7, Nick. What's your secret fear?
Flying.
Flying was my family, so you can go flying.
That wasn't a secret. It's like flying. Please for flying.
All right, Pete. Question 8. Which Star Wars character is most trustworthy to you? Leia Organa, General Veers, Padme Amidala, or Chewbacca?
Most trustworthy. Probably Padme.
Okay.
Can't be Leia. She walks right past Chewbacca. Trust her.
All right. Pick a color. Blue, white, gray, or red. I think it's a team question. What color do you want to do?
I think this is the question that gives you your answer. Regardless of what your answers are, this is the one that gives you your answer.
Well, what do you want to do as a team here?
I vote that you write gray, because if you do blue or red, it's going to give you the good guy or the bad guy, and white's probably going to give you some innocent person. So I vote you do gray because it's a non-polarizing color.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go gray here. Question 10. And finally, choose a Star Wars planet division. We'll do this one together as well. Niamos, Ferrix, Jakku, or Coruscant?
Which one is Niamos?
Space Miami.
I'm stuck between Niamos and Coruscant. I gotta go Coruscant though.
Yeah, I'll go with that too.
All right, Coruscant. We'll find out who our character is. We are Dedra Miro.
All right, that's fine. It's a great villain.
Yeah, you're methodological, ambitious, and intelligent. Your critics think you work too much, devoting yourself to long hours on the job, but you believe one day you'll be the top of your field. So that describes our podcast pretty well.
Why?
Yeah.
It about. Yeah, that's just.
Except for the fact we're not fascists.
Yeah, and we don't like torturing people. But anyway, I just these quizzes are always funny. Just reading these questions is like, this is what character you are because these basic traits. Like, all right, cool.
All right, so I thought that was fun. I thought that was fun to play.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll go to the MVP LVP board for Andor to wrap that up here. So, like we do every week here. So the final Andor LVP board, it's very large. So I'm going to put it up here on the board. Cassian Andor was the MVP of the show at +9. Nick, best character of all Star Wars, according to us this year.
I agree.
Luthen and Mon Mothma +4. Dedra, Cinta, Marva Andor +3. Lieutenant Gorn, Saw Gerrera, and Nemec +2. The Empire, Kino Loy, B2Emo, and Brasso +1. Bix at 0. The Two Stooges, Gorn's lackeys, Vel, Skeen, Tay Kalma, Davo, Captain Elk, and Nurchi are -1s. -2s are Lita, Commandant Behaz, and Captain Tigo. -3, Tim with 2 M's and Perrin. Blevin -4, and Bureau Stern's employee Karn -12. The worst character in Star Wars this year, Nick.
You know my opinion on Karn. I think he had actually a pretty good character, but not a bad character who was written fantastic. So I although I agree with him being on the bottom, I'm very, very curious about what happens next with him, and I think that's kind of cool that I want to know that.
Yeah, I do think Pete, though, in terms of overall points, is negative. I think in terms of like points per episode, probably Deputy Scott's the worst.
Yeah, and I also think, at least personally for me, I want to rethink how I give LVP and MVPs. I think for me, I've been giving LVPs and MVPs of how they're acting in the episode, instead of saying this is just a bad character or this is a good character. And I don't know if that's something that we just decided. I can't remember if we decided, hey, how are they doing this in the episode versus how they are as a character. But I think I'm gonna start to think about that, because Karn's not a bad character. He is what he's written for, and he's portrayed, I think, correctly, again, retrospectively thinking about it. But I think at the time of these, I think we were just so creeped out and like, well, this guy sucks, so he's the LVP. I think maybe I'll start like kind of rethinking how I do these.
Well, I think Karn's just an easy punching bag, because a lot of the characters in the show were like doing smart things, and he was doing stupid things all the time.
Right, and again, it makes sense, right? I think I need to give credit to the characters. Maybe the character's supposed to be doing stupid things, or maybe we're just not understanding it. And I think retrospectively, that comes easier than while we're watching the show, obviously.
All right, so that's it for the show wrap-ups here. Looking at the 2023, Nick, we got a lot of good stuff in the pipe here. We got Bad Batch, you mentioned, coming up here soon. We got Mando Season 3, Visions, we know is coming back, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and the video game Jedi Survivor. Plus, I'm sure there's a Lego thing coming out here. So I think there's a lot of stuff coming this year.
Yeah, I jumped the gun early. I was talking about Bad Batch Season 2. We were supposed to be talking about Andor, because I'll be honest, this was after the Jedi Summer Vacation on the rundown. That's why I jumped the gun. But what I was saying then, I'll say again, I'm very excited to cover a Season 2 of something we already covered. That's something that really interests me, and I can't wait to do that.
Yeah,
but we left one thing off here. I know it's not coming in 23, but Acolyte. I know it's not coming, maybe not coming in 23, but definitely looking forward to that still.
Yeah, definitely are looking forward to that here. And I do think also, Pete, on this list, what are you most excited for coming in 2023?
I'm most excited for Ahsoka Mandalorian. I know that's probably the popular opinion, kind of the mainstream idea, but I want to say this about Acolyte, even though that's far in the future. I think Acolyte is going to be better than Andor. I think it's going to build off of how Andor was written. We're going to see a lot, not to say cooler things, but it's going to be about Sith. And I think my prediction, just throwing it out there, it's going to be better than Andor and take Andor's seat as the best Disney Plus show.
We'll see what happens there. One thing I forgot, I'll go back here to best and worst episodes of the year. We do have that on the rundown, so I do have graphics built fast. So we'll go ahead and look here. You want to start with the best first?
You know what we'll do? Let's start with the worst, and then we'll end on a good note, right?
All right, so we'll start with the worst episodes of 2022. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that one up here. So these are based on our episode grades here. So the worst episodes, 4 of the top 5 were Andor episodes, believe it or not. We had The Axe Forgets, episode 5, Casa, episode 1, episode 2, episode 11 are in the mix there. All sandwich. There's a sandwich around Boba Fett episode 3, The Streets of Mos Eisley, which is the infamous Cyberpunk Power Ranger debut.
It makes sense and for two reasons. One is because we talked about how Andor doesn't really hit on a weekly level, more of a overall level how good it is. But also, I think the way we grade kind of evolved over time.
Yeah,
when we were kind of in a way where like if we gave it a 6, it was like, oh, you didn't like it. Now like we're okay with giving an episode a 4.
I think if we read back and regrade Boba, a lot of times will be lower.
Agreed.
Yeah, and not the way the honorable mention. I put the 3 next on the list here. 2 more from Boba Fett, and all 3 episodes directed by Rob Rodriguez made the list for the worst episodes of the year. And then Obi-Wan Part 2, that was the other one that that was on the worst list.
Yeah.
So a lot of Book of Boba there. So now we'll go the other way. We'll go to the best episodes of the year. So what we got here, according to us, I got to delete the worst and go to the best. Here we go. Book of Boba Fett Chapter 6, In the Desert Comes a Stranger. That's the cameo party. You got a 9.67. Barely had a one way out from Andor, the prison break episode. One's 9.63. Then the rest of the top 5 is Obi-Wan's. Obi-Wan finale, Obi-Wan premiere, part 1, Obi-Wan part 3, which is Vader's big coming out party. So
Obi-Wan has the opposite problem of Andor, where as a whole, Obi-Wan was not a good show, but each episode individually was awesome. They were so fun to watch. So that's why I think they're what we see here.
Yeah, and we got in the honorable mention category. We got 2 more Andors, episode 7 announcement, the finale, Rick's Road, and then the other Obi-Wan part 5 here. No, the Mandalorian episode itself was not there because we controversially docked that a few points. So I think if we regrade that, that might have been on the list.
Right.
All right, so that's what we got here, and I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's definitely a fun year at the podcast here. Pete, people want to follow you on social media. How can I do that?
At PJ Consadori 29, and also make sure you're following us in the feed. Make sure you go back and watch all of our season recap episodes, watch our episode recap episodes. We have a lot of great information there. Watch the episode itself on Disney Plus, then just turn us on and see what our thoughts are, and leave us a comment on the YouTube. Leave us a comment in the Twitter. We want to hear from you, so definitely go back and listen.
Yeah, Nick, if people want to follow us on the Instagram, how can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram. Find us there.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. Also, the Holiday Festival on Just on the Suffering podcast. You can find episode there if you want to check that out here. And I'm going to leave us here. We're going to do maybe one last clip, Pete. I have to give you your most famous moment of the year. You want to guess what that is?
I'm probably mad at something.
Yes.
Oh, I know what it is, and I know what it is easily.
Can't remember.
Cyberpunk Power Rangers.
Oh, maybe.
All right, so here it is. This is the last clip of the episode, and we'll wrap up.
Did one of the Cyberpunk Power Rangers have to do a spin move before?
Yeah, ridiculous spin move.
Did anyone Nick caught it, but he's protecting Black K, and he was like, "We're getting shot at. Spin move, and then I'll shoot." I don't think anyone ever thinks that way. That was ridiculous. Whoever made that scene up and told him, it'd be really cool, is if you, as you're getting shot at, you spun in place. Didn't move at all, didn't dodge anything, just spun and then shoot.
I think that's later in the episode. I feel like it's because I haven't linked up with Black K yet. We'll definitely touch on that again. But Nick, I did feel like it's a little bit out of the Black Widow playbook where Yelena is saying to Natasha, why you always do those flips? They don't add anything to the fight here.
Yeah, it does. And just so Pete knows, he's not alone. I found an entire article on the spin move. Just now that was posted at 10:15 this morning. People it made no sense. What was the point? He was already there. It's one thing if you do a 180 because you turn around. He did a 360 to end up in the same position he was already in.
Yeah.
Did he get leverage or something?
He got speed. The bullet came faster because he spun.
Yeah. Pete has also made the Just and the Suffering podcast holiday special too.
I have to say, the fact that I didn't automatically remember it was the spin move. Yeah. What a time to be alive, honestly. Just what a time.
Yeah,
I remember because I was your guest on that, so I remember we went over that clip already. I do remember that.
Yeah, Nick was also on the holiday special. We went over some of the clips on the podcast here. This is one of the 2 Sky Guys clips I made. The other one you got to listen to this Just in the Suffering podcast. Find that one.
Absolutely.
All right, and next week we'll be back here. It's not the last podcast of the year. Bad Batch Season 2 preview show. Round number 2, Nick. Now with Pete.
I'm sorry. What did you just say? It cut off in the beginning there.
I said round 2 are bad for you this time with Pete.
Oh, that's right. That's coming up next. Yes.
Next week, that's gonna be on the feed. But until then, everybody, happy holidays and may the force be with you.